Stress is a really necessary part of this job. I'm aware of that. I've worked on several small productions and for live broadcasts in my past, and I know that it's a part of working with such short and tight schedules. For example, this past year I've worked as a director, producer, and editor on several video projects. One of them was a music video for a local band, and I definitely had my fair share of challenges during the process. The band was changing ideas and concepts last minute on the set, so we had to reorganize our shots, and then halfway through the editing process, they changed their minds again about what content they wanted in it, and I had to go back and redo a lot of work that was already done. It was a stressful project, but I've always felt that I perform my best under stress, and in that situation, I really embodied that. I'm able to easily prioritize tasks and manage my time in a way that efficiently and effectively gets things done. When things change as they were prone to do, rather than breaking under the pressure or just like completely not doing anything, I'm really able to take a step back and examine the big picture and take little steps in accomplishing the larger task at hand. For example, when editing that project, it was very overwhelming, especially with the last minute changes. But I simply created little tiny tasks to accomplish and focus on those, such as laying out all the footage first, reorganizing it, doing a draft cut, rather than just jump right into the final and have to do all of that all at once. So I really like to break things down into micro tasks. It makes things feel more manageable, makes things feel like you're getting things done. And I just feel like overall I'm really able to handle the stress that comes with this kind of environment. Ever since I was in middle school, I've been interested in the field of television and film editing. Throughout high school, I was heavily involved with my school's video department and did a lot of shooting and editing for sports and different events happening around the school, like the theater. I initially went to college for film production with a concentration in editing, and it was there that I actually started taking classes in the production side as well. And I realized I really enjoyed that aspect of broadcasting and media too. When I transferred to Alvernia in my sophomore year, I focused more on communications, but I continued to pursue a concentration in multimedia editing and production. So first and foremost, I want to work as an editor and a producer because that's where my interests and skills have always been focused. In addition to that, however, I also feel that my experience in the field already is valuable. I've worked on several small student productions throughout the last couple of years. One of them was as an assistant producer and as an assistant editor for a short film that actually won second place at an Indiana Film Festival. I have experience working on set and also working in post and pre-production. I also have worked the videography for several weddings, so I have a background in doing nonfiction videography as well, which I believe is important for this job, especially as a news company. Throughout college, I also was on the editing board for our college lit magazine, The Zephyrus, and was a writing tutor, so I have experience working with the writing side of editing as well. All in all, editing and producing are where my interests have always been, and I think that coupled with my experience in the field already is why I want this position, and I think I would be a really good fit for this position. One of the appealing things to me about WFMZ is that it's a privately operated television station and it's not owned by any of the larger conglomerate news networks. I like that WFMZ isn't under any alternative agenda or bias that you might see in like CBS or CNN or MSNBC. It highlights a lot of local stories and features as well that shows the diversity of the area and the counties surrounding the area. In a nation and a world that heavily depends on like cable news for their information, like CNN, Fox, MSNBC, etc., local independent stations are facing an uphill battle. I think WFMZ has really held their own in this changing climate. It's really popular around here. Your network is prevalent in almost all of Berks County and the Lehigh Valley region, as well as certain areas of the Philly area and even in New Jersey. For a local station, I think that's really impressive and encouraging towards even more potential growth. In addition to that, I think WFMZ's online presence is far superior to many local stations in other areas of the country as well. And overall, I think in this area, 69 News is considered almost on par with the cable news channels. I would like to be involved with a network that has shown such growth and potential in a cable news-heavy environment. I think there's a lot of opportunity with your network, both for myself and for your company as well. First and foremost, one of my biggest strengths, in my opinion, is that I'm a natural leader. I have no problem taking the lead on projects and bearing that responsibility that comes with leadership. I enjoy being in charge, and I definitely naturally fall into that role when it needs to happen. While I can occasionally be too assertive, I think over the years and taking the lead on many different kinds of projects that I've really been able to control how aggressive and assertive I get, and instead I'm a much better leader for it. I also work really well under high stress, such as the stress that comes with being in a leadership role. Throughout college, there were always times when my work in my personal life was piling up and schoolwork was piling up, and I always found that in those times when my stress was really high, I was able to perform just as efficiently with just as great a quality as my other times when I wasn't as stressed. I am also a perfectionist and very detail oriented. So certain projects tend to spike my stress just because I'm so adamant about things always looking their best. As an editor especially, it definitely makes the process more stressful. I've always done well with delivering projects on time, though, despite that, even if they can be more time-consuming with my own heightened expectations. Kind of going along with that, I also tend to have really high expectations for people I'm working with, or who are part of a group that I'm leading. Because I do have those high expectations for myself, I'm able to perform under pressure. I do get frustrated when people don't meet the expectations I set for myself and for the group. For example, I'm a quick learner, and I pick up on things that are being shown like once, maybe twice. People who don't share that strength can really frustrate me. However, kind of like with being too assertive, the last couple of years and all of my experiences have taught me that everyone performs their best work in different ways and in different styles, and that especially in the creative and technical fields, you have people with all different personalities and learning types, and it doesn't negate from the quality of work that they deliver. So I've definitely gotten better with handling people who aren't necessarily doing things exactly as I would like them, and overall, it's just made me a stronger leader and a better leader. I do tend to get really frustrated with people who don't acknowledge their own weaknesses and mistakes. As I said, I am a leader, and I do delegate well, and I like the role as a leader, but when I do screw up, I acknowledge it, and I own up to it. I'm always the first person to immediately shoulder the blame when I need to, especially as the leader. If I make a mistake that ends up affecting the work of someone else on my team, I always take that responsibility because ultimately it was me, and it's not fair for someone to share that blame if, it was me at the top, delegating that task. I really value that kind of person as well who can do that. Someone who is proud enough of their work that when they do make a mistake, because everyone does, they aren't afraid nor too prideful to admit to it and to grow from it. Because ultimately that's what mistakes are. While they're annoying, they're a great way to learn and to better yourself. So I do tend to get really frustrated when I have to be around the sorts of people who don't take that responsibility for their actions, and when they mess up and don't want to admit that they don't know how to do something. There's no shame in learning, and there's no shame in making mistakes either if you own up to them and learn from them. Working on a team with someone who can't do those things, who can't admit what they don't know and never admits to their own faults is very frustrating for me. While I do consider myself a people person, and on a personal level, I do get along with like almost every type of personality, I do find those kinds of people to be very difficult to work with and work for. Although not impossible. When in a situation where I'm working with someone who behaves in that way, I always just lead by example. So I admit what I don't know, I own up to my mistakes, and I hope that maybe they will just follow suit.